But my beats, they are hard.
Hey, what up? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the BCSN SportsWrap, the longest-running HBCU sports-themed talk show on the interwebs. My name's Bryan Fulford. That's A.D. Drew, and we got another good show for you tonight as we're getting ready to recap. I'm gonna call it Week 3. I don't care what you folks in Division II want to call it. It's gonna be Week 3 because the NCAA says so, at least at the major level. Anyway, how you doing tonight, Drew?
Look, I'm fighting for the small guys. It's Week 2, bro.
Man,
you know, I have to fight the small guys fight because I know where my bread is buttered, man. So we're gonna hold on there for right now. We'll bring that theme up later.
Again, it still makes no sense because you have Division II teams playing the same weekend as Division I teams. Just own it. Just be on the same calendar, man. Stop it with all this stuff. Anyway. Well, both of us been on the road, back in our home studios, and so we had to reach out to some friends for this episode. So we got a few folks coming in to join us because folks that we know, they're everywhere. They're out covering games, broadcasting games. So no better place to be than amongst friends. So coming up in the show, we've got Mo Carter of Fox 54 in Huntsville, Alabama. Of course, Mo working with the SWAC TV. He was doing the play-by-play for the Jackson State-Tuskegee game. So we'll talk to Mo at the bottom of hour 1. Then at the top of hour 2, we've got Stephen J. Gaither of HBCUGameDay.com, WSSU Ram Nation. He was in Winston-Salem State, watching his beloved Rams or covering his beloved Rams, whooping up on Lincoln, PA. So we'll talk to him at the top of the hour. And I know Drew might want to do a little gloating as the SIAC ended up taking the decisive match over the CIAA. So there might be a little shoulder flexing, chest popping, whatever you want to call by Drew. At the bottom of hour 1, Keisha Kelly, Black College Experience. She was in Nashville, Tennessee.
Hour 2. Bottom hour 2.
I'm sorry, bottom of hour 2. She will be on. She was in Nashville, Tennessee, covering the Alabama A&M Tennessee State contest. So she will kind of give us her perspective. And then we hadn't planned on going into the 8 o'clock hour, but right at the top of hour 8, and it's kind of how we'll close out the show, we'll talk to Simone Stanley. She was doing play-by-play for probably the big game of the weekend, I think, regardless of division. Virginia Union of the CIAA go on the road against Edward Waters in the Unity Classic, as it was dubbed. And what a game that turned out to be. So we'll get a chance to talk to her. So,
Bryan, speaking of play-by-play, want to take a point of personal privilege. We didn't talk about it on this show. We've talked about it on everybody else's show but our own. But congratulations to you, my brother, uh, securing the bag as the voice of the Rattlers Sports Network, along with Hall of Famer Albert Chester. Uh, yeah, your first game was this past Saturday, and if FAMU doesn't pull that game off, you may have lost your bag because you may have been the new jinx for for the beloved Rattlers. But no, seriously, Brian, on behalf of the Black College Sports Network and the fans of the BCSN SportsWrap, we want to congratulate you uh, on the job well done. No better person to do it. I'm just hoping that one day I get the opportunity just to be your wingman once again, doing color for you at some point in time. If Albert has to take a day off and Morehouse has a bye or something like that, call your boy. That's all I'm gonna say.
You're on the short list. You're on the you're in pocket, Drew. Always in pocket. Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. We gotta win. So I'm 1-0 as the voice of the Rattler Football Network, and it feels good. It feels good to get a dub.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Who's that complaining in the chat room? Will Wallace, stop complaining. A lot of complaining going on in the chat room. A lot of people that thought FAMU was going to lose. What did I say, Drew? I don't know if some of y'all caught Thursday's show. Stop with the nonsense. The lower levels, I don't care if it's the FCS playing FBS or Division-II playing FCS. The lower levels are not beating the upper levels. Sorry, not happening. Now, I reserve the right to come back with a rephrased statement after next week. But so far, I knew last week and it wasn't happening. Or yesterday, it wasn't happening. It wasn't happening. So yeah, I mean, Albany State, good ball club. Coach Quinn Gray has a good team. I understand, and you see why he is predicted to win the SIC, Drew. But it ain't happening. It ain't happening. And shame on you if you put. I hope you didn't put any money on it. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna see. Here we go. Will, Will, just come on, man, stop it. Just stop it. 19 plays, 99 yards, 10 minutes and 53 seconds, Drew. When your I'm calling everybody out. When your HBCU puts a drive like that together, come talk to me. 19 plays, 99 yards, 10:53. That's what FAMU did. That's what FAMU did to Albany State and crushed them. Sucked the air right out their lungs, Drew, on that drive. They thought they had us backed up. They thought they had a safety. Quarterback did a good job. Thankfully, we didn't have the refs that were in the Grambling, Kentucky State game, or maybe it could have been a safety, but it wasn't. Quarterback fought his way just past the goal line, and then next minute, Drew, we got going. So, but it was a good first half. Albany State had a 14-10 lead, so it was a good game. If you want to hear more about that from the FAMU perspective, you can join us on tomorrow night's O&G Strike Zone Monday Night Review as we get into the deep dive on that. I'll be looking for the Albany State show, hearing them complain about the game and the officiating and all that stuff. So
there's a lot of complaining about the officiating going around today, Brian. Just so you know, and since you kind of gave a recap of the game that you were at, I'll go ahead and give a recap of the Howard Morehouse game. And for those of you all who look at the final score of the Howard Morehouse game, don't let that score fool you. Midway through the third quarter, the score was 14-10 in favor of Howard. But Howard wound up getting a field goal with about 3 minutes left in the third quarter. And then, just like it typically does, Brian, when you have a upper level playing a lower level, the fatigue factor kicked in, and they ran off 21 uncontested points in the fourth quarter to open up that score. But the score at the end of 3 was 17-10 in favor of Howard before they scored that last 21. Although I do have a little bit of a problem with the final 7. I mentioned it this morning. I'll say it again. 47
Final
seconds left.
7. What do you mean the final 7?
The final 7 points.
Final 7 points. Okay.
Yeah, 31-10, 47 seconds remaining in the ball game. You got the ball first and goal on about your 8-yard line, 6-yard line, something like that. Honestly, Brian, 2 knees and we all going home. But no, somebody wants to hand the ball off to the running back another time, and there's another touchdown. Of course, now you got to take the time for the PAT. Now we got to take time for another kickoff. So, that extra 7 points cost me about 5 to 7 minutes out my life. So, yes, and it was unnecessary. Yeah, I did say it, and Morehouse had its opportunities. Morehouse actually had the opportunity to take the lead in the second quarter. Howard gave Morehouse a very short field. Morehouse got the ball down to about I want to say about the 4-yard line on second down. It was second and goal from the 4. Morehouse called a run play. They called a run play in between the tackles. Personally, we were having a little bit of success going outside of the tackles. And Howard snuffed the play out in between the tackles for about a 3-yard loss, brought up a 3rd down. Morehouse was unable to convert on that 3rd down. So instead of getting that touchdown, they have a field goal attempt. Brian, field goal gets blocked. So not only does Morehouse not get the 7, but they don't even get the 3 out of it. And Howard is able to come down and score out of that blown opportunity. That's kind of where the momentum shifted in the game. But that's kind of what happens when you're a lower level team. You cannot give up opportunities like that when the higher division opponent gives you such a short field. So.
You know what I always tell you, Drew, when those kind of things happen. Now I don't know if this applies in this case because you had a D2 playing a D1, but if I was sitting here looking trying to see if I could find a point spread, but it sounds real convenient that 28 points. That's an awfully nice number there. They were sitting on 21, and might have been some Howard backers had already gotten the word in the coach and say, hey, Coach, we need to make sure we win this by 4 touchdowns.
Brian, we know there was no line on that game, first of all. I just want you to know that. There might have been some personal stuff on it, but there was no line on that game.
Publicly,
yes.
Right. Publicly, there wasn't a line, but somewhere, somebody put a line on that game, somewhere.
Right. Chuck Hunt, that player that you talked about, his name is Sean Johnson. Coming into the week, he was number 3 in Division-II in tackles. Number 20 for Morehouse. He added another 10 tackles to his total after Saturday's games. We'll have to wait till Monday to see where he ranks at in all of Division-II. He was leading the SIAC in tackles. And like I say, he was number 3 in entire Division-II in tackles. So thought he should have won Player of the Week 1 when we played Johnson C. Smith, but they didn't give it to him. He is the nominee for Player of the Week once again for Morehouse. Let's see if the powers that be vote for him.
I was just doing a quick look and see if I could find anything on that game, but I digress. I'll step away. But anyway, I'll tell you, just never be surprised.
Can I Blue Jacket? Albany State does have women's soccer. So
what are we talking about?
No, they're talking about Albany State not having a kicker. I was like, Albany State does have women's soccer, but Albany State's women's soccer is not a good program.
Why are you talking about Albany State not having a kicker? What did I miss here?
When a couple of times they thought Albany State should have kicked the ball when they went. I know there was one time where they went for it on 4th down, like just outside the 20, where normally you would possibly take the 3 right there, but Albany State didn't have a kicker, didn't have confidence in the kicker.
Yeah. you know, at the point that I think you might be talking about that point in the game, you're down touchdown. Again, Florida A&M down 14-10, got the ball to start the third quarter, start the second half. Very first play from scrimmage, quarterback R.J. Johnson hit, I believe it was Kanari Wilcher on a quick slant route, boom, over the middle, one play, touchdown, 71 yards, I believe it was. On the ensuing kickoff, forced a fumble on the return. FAMU recovers it. And then I believe on the very next play, if my memory serves properly, it was either the next play or 2 plays after, they scored another touchdown. So within maybe not even a full minute, FAMU had already gone up. I'm going to do the math here, 23-14 because they missed the PAT. And that, you know, from that point, it was ball game. I mean, actually, 23-14, Albany State did kick a field goal because it was 23-17. So I think at the point you guys might be thinking about Albany State, they needed touchdowns. They needed scores. They couldn't settle for field goals at that point in the game. And then, of course, the drive that sucked the life out of Albany State, it started late in the third quarter and carried into the fourth quarter. Again, a 10-minute drive, 99 yards, 19 plays. The defense was on the field for 19 plays, 99 yards, doggone 11 minutes. Now, you show me some, again, I will say it all season, keep an eye out. Show me somebody else that puts a drive like that together all season. I'm waiting. We'll wait to see. We'll wait to see.
Ram Nation is getting you there, Brian.
Never satisfied. I'm not going to respond. You're trying to bait me in. Yeah, look, I can't even win this. But anyway, what we can mention, Drew, is we can mention. I want to give you some props because one of the teams that you spotlighted, you were ahead of them before anybody else, was Kentucky State. And you said Kentucky State was going to be a good squad this year, and they doggone were. A lot of people were looking at Albany State being the SIAC team to knock off an FCS team, but actually it was really probably should have been Kentucky State. Yes. As I believe they had a lead on Grambling at Grambling. The game ends up going to overtime, which
it should have never went to overtime.
Should have never gone to right.
If the quarterback doesn't slide to yours short.
Sliding versus diving, man. Just think if he had dove, he probably gets the first down.
Right.
But he slid. But anyway, Grambling ends up, the game goes to overtime, and then the play before. Well, let me just say again, Kentucky State on a run, I believe it was a pass, and the receiver was advancing the ball, and right at a point where you might have thought that his forward progress stopped, no whistle had been blown. The ball got stripped. I believe it got stripped. It was a little hard. It didn't hit the turf, so it got stripped out of his hands, and the Grambling State defensive player returned it for a touchdown. Very controversial because our good friend Ja Sports, one of our BCSN producers, I saw one of his clips where he showed Drew the play before that very play, in which a similar play where a Kentucky State receiver, his forward progress was stopped and they blew it dead. And makes you wonder why the officials didn't blow it dead. I mean, maybe he was about to blow the whistle and he didn't blow the whistle. I don't know. But many people, as Jamie just said, many people are saying that Kentucky State got robbed. But like you said, Drew, did Kentucky State get robbed there, or did they snatch defeat from the jaws of victory by sliding instead of diving?
I got you.
Brian, it always comes down to one play, one break. And that's why I say, to be a Division II team beating an FCS,
you almost have to have a perfect game.
You do. You have to play a perfect game, and you probably need a little bit of luck. You do. You need a perfect game.
You need a perfect game against a C game.
Yes, a perfect game against a C performance. by the upper division team, and then you gotta have a lucky play or two.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, that didn't happen for Kentucky State.
Right.
But they're on the radar.
Look, I just want to thank, as we get ready to go to break, I want to thank the Edward Waters Tigers for getting football back where it should be. After the blip on the radar last year with the CIAA going 6-0 against the SIAC, football is back in the conference where it's supposed to be.
6-0? What are you talking about? 6-0? Whoa. It was 4-3 if I'm not mistaken.
Last year it was 6-0.
Oh,
CIAA.
Okay, right. Last year. Okay.
Yeah, we gonna let y'all have basketball. Y'all got basketball. Give us our football back in the SIAC. Yeah. Hey,
put the graphic up, Drew.
Hold on,
I got the graphic. Hold on.
You're doggone right.
A.D. Drew, ladies and gentlemen, my bread is buttered by the SIAC. There it is.
Exactly. Edward Waters, I'm rooting for you except for next week. Kentucky State, I'm rooting for you except for this Saturday because we got y'all this Saturday. So, yeah, let's do it. Albany State ain't got to see y'all, so I'm rooting for y'all all year.
Oh, man, good stuff. Lots of stuff. Good stuff, man. Edward Waters, program-defining win. Edward Waters is on the map, and they come into Daytona Beach next week. Sound the alarms. Put the women and children to bed, Daytona, because here come the big bag Tigers, boy, coming down I-95.
Gonna look like Black Beach Week again.
Exactly. It's gonna look like Black Beach weekend. Hide the women and children in Daytona Beach because Edward Waters is coming, and they coming to rob, steal, and loot over there, boy. I tell you what, they coming hard. I can't wait to see what they bring as the return of Brian Jenkins to where he basically put Bethune on the map. He's coming home. Watch out, Bethune. Watch out, Band Talk. Here comes your boy. He's coming. Can't wait for that one. Let's take that break, Drew, because we got Mo Carter waiting, and we want to get to Mo, talk a little bit about that JSU Tuskegee game, and then kind of maybe catch on a little other talk as well. We got some other games to talk about as well, so hang tight with us. You're watching the BCSN SportsWrap right here on the Black College Sports Network. We'll be back in just a moment after these words.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement, a statement, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. Whether you're a student or a lifelong supporter, our gear lets you wear your HBCU story with confidence and style. Because when you wear HBCU image, you're not just wearing clothes. You're wearing culture. You're wearing pride. You're wearing purpose. HBCU.
College football fans, the Cricket Celebration Bowl is celebrating 10 years of crowning an HBCU national champion. A champion will rise at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on December 13th as the MEAC and SWAC champions clash in Atlanta. Join us for championship football, interactive fan experiences, and iconic marching bands. It's an HBCU family reunion that you don't want to miss. See who will be crowned the next HBCU national champion. For event and ticket information, visit thecelebrationbowl.com.
All right, welcome back to the BCSN SportsWrap. Brian Drew, and joining us, good friend Mo Carter, sports director, Fox 54 in Huntsville, as well as SWAC TV play-by-play. Mo, how you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing good, Brian. Just getting into the groove, on what I'm going to be doing for basically the rest of the year, knocking out a bunch of SWAC TV games on Saturday and returning to the regular 9 to 5 on Sunday to let everybody know here in the Huntsville metro area what the heck went on with some of their favorite teams.
Good stuff, good stuff. Mo doing play-by-play for Jackson State and Tuskegee. Let me see. So week one, you were Southern and Mississippi Valley State. Where were you last week, week two?
I was not anywhere last week.
Okay.
I have this weird thing where like literally my schedule goes like, okay, I literally have a game and then I have a bye week and then I'll have 2 more games, a bye week, 2 more games, bye week. So that's literally how the schedule kind of rolls out for me throughout the year. But yesterday was number 2 of 9 for the season with SWAC TV.
Are those bye weeks by choice, or those bye weeks just how they feel?
Just how they fell and how the SWAC office, along with Butcher Altador, really kind of just set some things up. Primarily when I kind of look at the schedules or whatever, clearly, I usually have games that are either in Alabama or Mississippi, with the exception of the FAMU Mississippi Valley game, which will be in Georgia. So I'll have that one. I do have FAMU
scheduled for Mississippi, so
correct. Because originally I was going to have Alabama State and Bethune-Cookman that weekend, but once that happened, I went ahead and I got flip-flopped to go to Georgia, and so Santoria, Black, and I don't know who's with him that week. They'll get the Alabama State game while I go over to Georgia. But I'm basically Alabama, Mississippi majority of the time, with the exception of that one game in Georgia, and then Southern Fam at the end of October as well.
All right. Jackson State against FCS opponents coming into the contest with, I guess it would have been an 11. Oh, my goodness. That is a bad beat. No, sorry. If you're watching it, you know. God dog it. Anyway, sorry about that, Mo. Very
You're good.
of me. You're watching TV and talking to Mo Carter. Jackson State here. Jackson State, defending champs, 11-game winning streak against FCS opponents. But this game was a little unusual, as I heard a report that they didn't have many of their starters, including Jacobian Morgan and a few others. Talk a little bit about what you learned about Jackson State going into this contest against Tuskegee, and where was everybody?
So early in the week when we talked to Coach T.C. Taylor back on Monday, we as in me and Tyler Carr, we did learn that, hey, while they put up a good fight against Southern Miss, they got physically beat up against Coach Charles Hupp and the Golden Eagles. And clearly he was going to have a lot of guys as game time decisions for yesterday. And because of that, clearly he was like, yeah, expect my starters to whatever play, but if we have changes, we'll definitely let you know. Well, letting us know literally was 2 minutes before kickoff. And when I'm talking about 2 minutes before kickoff, I'm talking about get a text message from Travis Jerome, the sports information director at Jackson State, saying, "Hey guys, yeah, these guys are starting today." And thankfully, we pre-recorded our intro. So while the intro is being played, I'm looking at my phone like, okay, as soon as kickoff comes, we're going to have to share with everybody that this is happening, and this is happening. Luckily, we got a few more minutes because Jackson State deferred to the second half. So Tuskegee got the ball first. But as soon as, Jackson State came out onto the field, we're like, hey, guys, we got breaking news because Jacoby Morgan will not be playing today. Instead, Jared Lockhart, the true freshman from out of Charlotte, North Carolina, is leading the way along with a couple other guys that you may kind of start to wonder, who are these guys? But clearly, it was a decision that was kind of just made late in the process, and that's what TC Taylor and company went through. And let's just say this, in the next man up mentality, Jackson State did a pretty good job of things on yesterday and practically controlled a lot of the game. With the guys that did play, and I think everything else, turned out well for them. Now, I will also say this: Tuskegee did have their chances. They did have their chances, but because they didn't take care of their chances, is why Jackson State was able to turn back around and be like, "Oh, you missed your opportunity here, so watch what we're going to do," and we add points to the scoreboard, unlike what the Golden Tigers were doing.
Man, Jackson State held Tuskegee to 109 yards of total offense, while themselves putting up 511 with essentially the backup, second and third string guys. Look, that's what you're supposed to do to an FCS or a Division-II opponent. I don't know, Tuskegee. I mean, Drew, you might know better. I mean, if Tuskegee was really, I don't know how we evaluate Tuskegee, but Jackson State, Jackson State did what they were supposed to do, right? So, I mean, are you more impressed by what Jackson State did under the circumstances, Mo, or maybe are you a little kind of looking over at Tuskegee like, what are you guys doing?
Well, I'm more impressed with what Jackson State was not only able to do, but solidifying what they should do. And what I mean by that is that, like, when I look at, passing yards, for example, Raekwon Beal had been slinging that thing around the first couple of weeks, and he only had, I want to say, 85 passing yards, if I'm not mistaken. Now, did he have some guys who were wide open who dropped passes? Absolutely. But at the same time, a lot of those opportunities for him in which he had incompletion was because of the pressure that the Jackson State defense was throwing at him here, there, and everywhere. And, their rushing attack was basically non-existent. I know they had negative rushing yards going into the third quarter. And I think Tyler Carr made reference to, after 2 8-yard runs or something, they were finally back at one official rushing yard at that point in time. So no, Jackson State certainly took care of what they need to do. Now, when I look at Tuskegee, I still think they're a team that's going to be in the running for the SIAC when it comes to getting to the championship game. I just think that they just need to really just go back, look at things that they did wrong against Jackson State, and they've got to shore up penalties. I mean, they had a lot of penalties that really put them out of range when they were just building up some momentum. Oh, you get a long pass play here, or you get a broken coverage here, but then it gets called back because of a holding penalty, or it gets called back because of illegal hands to the face or something of that nature. So, I'm definitely not counting Tuskegee out in the long-term race for the SIAC, but at the same time, if you're any other team around the Southwestern Athletic Conference, your eyeballs probably got a little larger seeing, not the Jackson State starters still dominate in the fashion that they did.
Mo, by the way, Raekwon Beal actually had 93 yards passing, but as a team, Tuskegee had 85 yards. So that's where you got the number. And you mentioned rushing a whopping 20 attempts for 24 yards, Mo, on the ground.
Indeed. Now, look, I do want
yards.
Yeah,
I
do.
threw the ball behind. EJ Hall was credited with 2 or 3 passing. I'm not sure if EJ Hall actually got behind that.
-8 passing yards. Anyway, go ahead, Mo. Sorry.
So yeah, I think the -8 passing yard, I want to say was on a lateral basically. So I know that's where that ended up happening. But I'm gonna tell you this. Jackson State comes down, they score, Lockhart scores or whatever after, some long passes, and then he takes it in with on the rushing attack. But Tuskegee had a chance literally to hop right back into the game. They had a good situation where they sent a guy in motion, coming behind the quarterback to look like a pistol formation. Then they threw a swing pass, and it sets up a double pass. All of a sudden, there's a Tuskegee guy wide open, 15 yards away from any other Jackson State defender at the 5-yard line, and he drops the ball. If he catches that and Tuskegee turns that into points, especially a touchdown, we're looking at a 7-7 game midway through the first quarter. And now we're going tit for tat. But because that does not happen, what happens on the next play? Negative yards for Tuskegee. What happens on the next play? Negative yards. All of a sudden, they're forced to punt when they could have had great field position along with putting points on the board. And then there were some other opportunities where they got into Jackson State territory, but then negative plays followed them or whatever. So because of that, Jackson really, really started just pounding and grinding with them and just said, you know what? Y'all going to keep making mistakes. We're going to capitalize off your mistakes. And that really became the trend of the game. And then after that, Jackson State really just started just to win in the trenches. And we've seen them do that many times, over the course of a number of years, especially under TC Taylor.
Mo, question for you. And this is kind of off the field. I'm looking at the attendance, 18,642. We know Jackson State in the first game only drew 13 and some change against Hampton. Number one, just the atmosphere there at Veterans Memorial Stadium. How much of that 18 was Tuskegee? Was a Tuskegee bump in the crowd? And well, let's start with that.
Okay, I give Tuskegee maybe about 2,000.
Okay,
give or take, somewhere about 1,500 to 2,000. Over there. For Jackson, they had a pretty decent thing, but there's also, and I'm just gonna be real with y'all. The fact that Jackson had a 2:00 game to open the season and then another 2:00 game, which was their next home game or whatever, and kickoff temperature was about 91, 92 degrees. Look, I know we're in the South and a lot of us are used to it, but then there's a lot of other people who still were not used to that. And because of that, they're taking the comforts of their own home compared to actually being out inside of a Memorial Stadium to actually, watch their favorite team play in that situation. I mean, hey, look, I know a lot of people personally that would probably, chose that situation and scenario as well. But it definitely was in low 90s, but heat index definitely pushed it somewhere closer to the high 90s. So, you got to make smart decisions in that scenario just in general. I'm just really interested just to see how many people were actually watching on SWAC TV, because after having the interview with Dr. Charles McClellan, we've had some pretty good number of viewers and minutes watched through the first couple of weeks.
So basically what you're saying, Mo, in the decision to probably the early starts were probably to kind of help accommodate the traveling teams versus your fan base, which would much prefer a 5 or a 6 o'clock start. There's obviously a trade-off when you make those type of business decisions.
Well, there's a trade-off, and also let's just be for real. At the end of the day, TV and streaming will still dictate a lot of that.
Yes.
And I think that was the perfect example on yesterday. Yesterday, you had 5 games on SWAC TV. The only game that was not in the same evening window was Jackson State. So I'm pretty sure, A.D. Ashley Robinson, along with a couple other people who make decisions for JSU, was like, well, why don't we just take the opportunity to actually be by ourselves? Nobody else is playing at this time, theoretically. I know Alabama A&M played Tennessee State at 3:30, but by the time that game was even kicking off, Jackson State was close to halftime at that point in time. So you basically had an entire window by yourself on one particular platform. So you have to kind of think it from a strategic and marketing standpoint too. And if they say that was the best situation for them, then they went ahead and signed off and said, boom, 2:00. And that's what we're doing for these first 2 games, especially on yesterday.
And you may or may not know this. Were there any games on competing networks during that time slot also, Mo? Because, obviously I was focused on the game that I was at as far as who was playing when. So I was just curious if we even know if there were even any competing games on Plus or Go.
I didn't get a chance to really check the MEAC schedule. That
No,
they're
I'm just talking SWAC. Just talking SWAC
for
in
the
general.
SWAC. No.
So
The
no
the the
competing
next
games on Go or Plus.
No, the only game, like I said, I know the Alabama A&M game was at 3:30
Right. And I know
Central,
we were
and that
competing on Go. We had a 1 o'clock Eastern time start, so
mhm.
which would have been
Yeah,
12 o'clock Central. So
yeah, that like I said, I know the Alabama A&M game was at 3:30 Central, and I'm trying to think. I know Alcorn played Mississippi State. That was at 5 o'clock, so no, that wasn't competing either.
so
So
so I
honestly,
understand the decision now. The more and
mhm,
more as we're talking this out loud and everything, as far as the time slot, and in today's I guess today's way of measuring metrics,
mhm.
those eyeballs are probably more important than the butts in the seats for a lot of these athletic departments.
Correct, because even on HBCU Go, I know that was Alabama State and Miles. That game wasn't until 4 p.m. Central as well. So no, there basically was no competition within the conference for sure from an eyeball standpoint. And on top of that, like along with it being the WC Gordon Classic, was also the SWAC Classic. So Dr. Charles McCullough and several members of the staff for the Southwestern Athletic Conference were also on hand at the game, and so saw them walking out and about and greeting folks and chit chatting with people and everything too.
I'm glad you understand, Drew, because I don't think, if I look in the comments, I don't think a good contingent of Jackson State fans understand or like the decision to have back-to-back games being played at 2. And then when I go and look at their schedule of home games, obviously the Southern game in 2 weeks is a 7 p.m. game, but then they've
But
got
that's in Baton
another
Rouge.
oh yeah. Hold on. Okay,
That's
so
in
let me
Baton
see it.
Rouge.
You're right. The next home game is a 3:30 Alabama State game,
And that's
followed
their
That's
homecoming.
by
homecoming. That's homecoming. You
okay,
always play homecoming during the day.
Bethune-Cookman is a to be determined, but I'm willing to bet that's going to be an afternoon game because you just mentioned the travel concerns of being able to get back, at a decent time because Bethune is either going to fly or they're busing to Jackson. It does bring up the question. And I don't know, Mo. That's you talk to a lot of these ads, and it'd be good to kind of find out who's making that decision. And being a part of Swag TV, I'm sure you can find out is what we're kind of speculating and talking about. Is that something that's being driven by TV or streaming, or is it that window that Drew just talked about, where it's an open window, you want more people to see you, you have a better spot of being seen at 2, but at the same time, you can't please all your fans, and if you got a large
Right.
contingent of elderly fans, it's a tough spot, I'm sure. So
No, it certainly is. I mean, the schools, more so the athletic directors and other athletic individuals in charge, they typically will suggest times, and not saying that those times are going to be, glued or be in cement, but streaming and television can turn around and change those times as well. You'll notice there's going to, as you get later into the season, you'll notice that there's going to be, a number of weeks where you got staggered times as well when it comes to what's happening within the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Perfect example, October 25th. Let me pull that schedule up real quick. There's a particular reason why that day you got things that are staggered. Week 9, if I'm not mistaken. All right, so check this out. All right, October 25th, you got Alcorn State playing host to Mississippi Valley. That's going to be on Swag TV. I think that's Alcorn's homecoming. Prairie View is also taking on Lincoln at 3 p.m. East. All these are Eastern times. UAPB and Bethune-Cookman are playing at 3. But then after that, check out the staggers. You got the Magic City Classic, which will be 9 times out of 10 either on ESPN Plus or ESPNU. That game's at 3:30 Eastern. Then You got the primetime SWAC TV game, which is Florida A&M at Southern. That game is at 5 p.m. Eastern. And then on HBCU Go, you got Grambling State and Jackson out there in Vegas. That game will be at 6 p.m. Eastern. So you kind of see how the staggers go or whatever, because you want to kind of make sure you got your eyeballs here, but then you want to make sure that people stick around or whatever. And I can tell you that's a perfect example of how you can kind of have a staggering thing. Now, does it work like that every single week? Absolutely not. But, it just goes back to the schools kind of suggesting the time to the conference, then the conference turning around, talking to their media partners, ESPN, HBCU Go, first and foremost, so 1 and 2, and then after that, turning back around and be like, all right, how do we fit things in when it comes to SWAC TV? So, yeah, man, media and streaming and television are definitely big enhancers when it comes to, well, not big enhancers, big influencers when it comes to certain time periods. I won't say it's 100% the case, but it's a large majority in those cases.
Gotcha. Mo, let me get you out of here with this. 3 weeks into the season, so we're right at about the first quarter mark. I know it's early because you got SWAC schools that have played lower division, upper division, so they've been all over the place. Very few SWAC v SWAC games. But who are maybe 2 or 3 teams who have impressed you the most in the SWAC thus far?
So, I've been impressed by what Jackson State has been able to do, whether it's their first team or their second team. That's hand in hand. Alabama State continues to look pretty good. I mean, Mr. Body, as long as he stays healthy, they are going to be a force to be reckoned with. And, if it's Eddie Robinson Jr. as your coach, you're going to have a pretty good defense. So I think those two things are working hand in hand. Why I think that October 11th battle between Alabama State and Jackson State may not be the game of the year, but it certainly could be a game changer if the Hornets are able to do what many people aren't expecting them to do down there on the road. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. And then I don't want to sound like a homer in any way, but Alabama A&M has really, really impressed me these last couple of weeks. I mean, the first week, yeah, you were at Arkansas, but they were in the game till about, I don't know, 8-9 minutes into the second quarter. It was literally still a one-score game, and their defense playing well. Last week against Alcorn, clearly it was more so of, all right, how do you stack up against, a team on your own level or whatever? And, I mean, they answered the call. They jumped out early. Alcorn responded. They responded to Alcorn's things, and then Cornelius Brown, putting on the show. Then yesterday, they go to Nashville, beat Tennessee State in which I think was truly a statement game. Primarily, the offense did well. I think Brown had over 300 passing yards once again, but it was the defense that came up with huge turnovers and stops late in the game, especially a strip sack of the QB on what would have been a potential go-ahead scoring drive for Tennessee State. So, I mean, Coach Shade has really got the Bulldogs moving in the right direction. They'll take on Lane this week. But look, you're in a scenario where Alabama A&M could really, really be in a good spot. And I'm just going off of hypotheticals here, but if they go ahead and they beat Lane, they'll be 3-1. They travel to Bethune-Cookman, which is never an easy game, especially when it's early. But if they beat Bethune-Cookman, all of a sudden you're looking at an Alabama A&M team that is 4-1 going into the Gulf Coast Challenge against Jackson State.
Bo, I got to ask a follow-up. I know that we were supposed to get you out. 2 quick follow-ups.
What's
Number
up?
one, and you're there in the Huntsville market. Did anyone honestly expect Alabama A&M to be this good this fast? Let's start off with that. In that area.
Me personally, I didn't think it was going to be like this early. I looked at the schedule and I said, man, this is a challenging schedule. We'll just have to really, really take it game by game. And I don't really like to do that, but I actually had to do that in this scenario. But considering like really how you've seen the mindset and the growth of this team under Coach Shade, you can certainly see why these things are coming through. And I mean, of course, we saw that he was able to do that through the years with Miles, but like immediately how he's been able to do it here at Alabama A&M has definitely been a step in the right direction. So, there were some believers, but I think now a lot of folks are really, really starting to open their eyes and understand that there's a pretty good thing going on the hill.
And my last question, do you think this is going to be one of those years in the East where we have A beats B, B beats C, and A beats C type situation where, and we know the three that we're talking about: Jackson State, Alabama, A&M. Everybody will beat up on everybody, and no one will go undefeated. But the losses amongst those teams would just be amongst those three. Is this that type of year that we're looking at potentially?
I think it's a good possibility. Look at Jackson State's schedule, for example. They have a bye coming up next week. Then they go to Southern. After they go to Southern, they go to Mobile to take on Alabama A&M before they return home to take on Alabama State. That is a very tough 3-game stretch, between basically what could be the top 3 teams in the East Division. Not taking away anything from Florida A&M, Brian, but like just kind of just looking at how things are like really, really stacked up in that scenario. And then, for Alabama A&M, let's say if they are able to pull off the upset of Jackson State, they're in the driver's seat for like 2 weeks until they face Alabama State in the Magic City Classic. And as I've seen over the last 12 years I've been here in the state of Alabama, I mean, the Magic City Classic, man, you can't ever have a favorite in that one because Lord knows things can go completely left or whatever on that. So it could be. It certainly could be. I'll say this: if Jackson State let's say Jackson State wins the East, if they win the East, it would shock me if they actually did not have one loss this year. And it's only because of the way the schedule is stacked up. I'm not taking away anything from TC Taylor. I think he's doing a phenomenal job out there in Jackson. But the way the schedule is stacked up, it certainly is quite tough. And probably they have some of the tougher stretches they've had in a number of years coming up. And, I talk about that 3-game stretch. I'm not even we didn't even talk about like, what happens what happens after they have their bye against Alabama State. Then they have to go to Vegas, face Grambling, then turn around and go to the Eastern time zone and face Florida A&M. So you got a Western time zone game and an Eastern time zone game in less than 7 days. So that's something I want to kind of keep an eye out on when it comes to the Tigers in that scenario. And as I mentioned, we know what's happening here in the state of Alabama, so it could be very, very interesting. But I'm very excited about what the actual SWAC league play will look like in the next month or so. And to the victor goes the spoils. And hey, who knows? We may be getting down to the end of we may have to get down to the end of the season. So AD, get those tiebreakers ready to go ahead and start reading those out to fans each and every week. If it comes down to that.
Yeah, you forgot about the other thing. I can't do any work for the Celebration Bowl until we get all this stuff figured out. So y'all just making my job even harder.
I like how you went through that scenario and you left out FAMU, who has never lost to any of the Alabama schools since joining the SWAC. I like how you did that though, but okay. I just had to call that out.
Well, notice how AD said it. Brian, I said I wasn't taking anything away from Florida.
I appreciate you, Mo. I appreciate you. Drew tried
no problem, man.
Trying to look too hard to be impartial.
I've tried too hard to you got to give me a reason to be partial.
No, stop.
No, I hear you. And also, Brian, too, look, I know I've sent it to you in the text in the group message, but congratulations on the new opportunity as being the play-by-play voice for the FAMU Rattlers.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem, man. No problem. Yeah, as soon as I saw Vaughn Wilson posted, I'm like, oh, shoot, look at Brian.
Trying to move up.
No, I understand, man. So I definitely look forward to seeing you in Baton Rouge on October 25th, and then here in Huntsville, November 15th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, November 15th. Yeah. Be my first trip to Baton Rouge, so I'm looking forward to it. Definitely. I'll be hitting folks up like Carlos and you and be like, I don't know how much time and places I can get to in that little 24-hour window, but I'm sure as heck gonna try to get to as many Baton Rouge spots as I can get to in the time that I'm allotted. So we'll see.
I got you. Just look, as long as you can get to either the Blue Stove for the chicken or Tony's for the seafood, you should be A-okay.
Bingo. Gotcha. All right, Mo, where are you at next weekend if you're anywhere? Where are you?
I'm right here in Huntsville for Alabama A&M against Lane. 6 p.m. kickoff on SWAC TV. It'll be Tolly, Carr, and I once again. So we'll have that game to take care of, another SIAC versus SWAC matchup. Then I've got a bye week as I call it, on the 27th, before I'll be in A.D. Drew's neck of the woods in Atlanta, Georgia on October the 4th for the, am I correct, the Georgia Football Classic? Is that what they're calling it?
Georgia Football Classic, exactly. We'll see you there.
How you had a Georgia Football Classic at either one of the teams from Georgia? I'm going to leave that alone. Anyway, I'll be in Montgomery that weekend, Bo, or else I would catch up with you, man.
I got you, man.
Yeah, yes, sir.
All right, Mo. Be well. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Absolutely, guys. Y'all take it easy.
All right. Appreciate you, Mo.
Mo Carter, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate Mo for dropping in to chop it up with us. Yeah, I was looking at something here. Drew, before we go to break, I want you to break down your top 5 FCS teams. You know, I saw you this morning. You did a great job defending reasons why Jackson State is not in your top 5, or maybe a better way of saying is why there is an argument that they shouldn't be at this point. So
I got to pull it back up for a little.
All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. We're gonna take a quick break. I'm gonna give you a chance to pull yourself together. A.D. Drew's gonna give his top 5. Again, this is not the BCSN or the BCSN SportsWrap's top 5. This is A.D. Drew's top 5. It's backed by science and logic, ladies and gentlemen. So and he might hurt some feelings, but that's, you know, you guys are big, you're grown folks. You'll be okay. So hang tight. Right on the other side, we'll talk about the A.D. Drew top 5, and coming up a little bit later here, pretty shortly, Stephen Gaither will be joining us as well of HBCUGameDay.com. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap. We'll be back in just a moment. This is Brian Fulford. A.D. Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics, from the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories. We cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN SportsWrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement, a statement, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. HBCU Image, a Kenny T's company.
College football fans, a champion will rise in Atlanta on December 13th. MEAC champion, SWAC champion, the 10th Cricket Celebration Bowl, crowning an HBCU national champion. For event and ticket information, visit thecelebrationbowl.com. ESPN Events presents Red Lobster Band of the Year. Returning to Atlanta on December 12th, 4 bands will qualify for the big stage, where 2 national champions will be crowned. Follow us for rankings updates throughout the season, and join us on December 12th. For event and ticket information, visit bandoftheyear.com.
When it comes to professional learning, teachers deserve better. From the leader in online learning, Stride brings you the Stride Professional Development Center, an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that gives teachers choice and flexibility, allowing them to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. It's time you take charge of your learning. Visit us today to get started.
Welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Bryan and A.D. here. Thanks to Mo Carter for joining us in the last segment. Coming up shortly will be Stephen J. Gaither, HBCUGameDay.com. But before we get to that, Drew's top 5, and the only reason I'm bringing this up because, we just finished talking about, Jackson State and in many people's polls, Jackson State is number 1, but I'm starting to see some people out there that don't have Jackson State number 1, and I don't know, this is just folk with their own personal top 5, and I'm talking media folk, people who cover HBCU football, but most of the polls that people pay attention to, Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, the Box to Row, most of them all still have Jackson State number 1. Drew, go ahead and make the argument. Who is your top 5? Let me hear it.
Okay, and I'm waiting on the slide to load from this morning from Dr. Cavill, and let me tell you what happened. What I said this morning on Dr. Cavill's show. All right, I gotta get to the right slide. I gotta load it. All right, here we go. This is Dr. Cavill's top 7. Now, mind you, 1 through actually, this 7 right here is actually how I personally voted in Dr. Cavill's poll. This is exactly how I voted. But as this was on the screen, I just had an epiphany. Something I just started thinking. Damn, Jackson State, one win over D2. Alabama State, 2-1, 1 win over D2. Howard, 2-1, 1 win over D2. Dale State, 2-1, 1 win over D2. Go back to Alabama State. 1 win over D2, but they've played the best game against an FBS opponent. Central State, after defeating Southern in the opener, and Southern not looking like the Southern that we thought they were going to be, laid 2 eggs. So I just started thinking about it. I was like, strength of schedule. If I just base it on strength of schedule, South Carolina State is my number 1 because South Carolina State's 2 wins have come against FCS opponents. One of your teams must have just scored, Brian. You got to cut the camera off when you do that next time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Using that logic, that makes Alabama and A&M my number 2 team because both of their wins were against FCS opponents. So now you get down to your number 3. You can debate Jackson State 3, or do I go with Alabama State 3? Well, when you think about it, Alabama State has beaten a better FCS opponent and has a quality loss against a FBS. So using that logic, I make Alabama State 3. Jackson State becomes number 4. Now you debating Central, Howard, and Dale State. I leave Central at 5. Howard beat for what has been underperforming Florida A&M team thus far. Or do I value Delaware State victory over an underwhelming Norfolk State? Both teams have a victory against a Division-II. I'm still leaving Howard up there, 6, Dale State 7. There's another 2-1 team out there, Brian, that we have not talked about. That 2-1 team is Grambling State. Why is Grambling State not in this conversation, Brian, despite having the same record as everybody else on their screen?
Because Grambling,
you beat the crap out of an NAIA.
Yeah.
And
they barely beat a Division.
You went to overtime against the Division-II.
Yeah.
So that is why the G-men are not even in this conversation. So that's my logic. like I said, I did not
So
vote that.
so
As I was thinking
go
through
ahead. Go ahead. What did you vote? What did you vote? What is your 5? Give me your 5.
My
5 to 1.
what I voted is just like this on the screen. I voted
But,
exactly like this is on the screen.
okay.
If I was to reevaluate it right now, I'd probably flip-flop South Carolina State and Jackson State if I was doing a week to week. If I was doing a traditional, you're number one until you're beaten, yes, I have to leave Jackson State number one. But if I was doing just based on this 2025 season, I'm putting South Carolina State number one right now.
All right. I guess I don't understand why. So is it because you had to make this vote at such a late hour last night and that
getting off a plane, tired, sleepy,
okay,
get the text 5 minutes to 12. Don't forget to get your vote in.
Okay.
Oh crap.
That's fair.
And honestly, I really did not actually have a chance to actually look at that when I made my vote last night / this morning.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yes.
That's understandable. So, and that's why I love being a part of Dr. Cavill's poll. This is why I know when we vote in the HBCU Pro Sports Media poll, that poll doesn't come out until either Tuesday or Wednesday. And it does give you an opportunity to kind of digest the weekend and so we get from there. Welcome on to the show, Stephen J. Gaither, HBCUGameDay.com. SJG, I know you were at Winston-Salem State, and I know Drew would like to run some SIAC, CIAA smack at you. But before we do all that, what's your thoughts on FCS teams? And I won't even take you as deep as saying your top 5, but maybe who are the teams that have impressed to date for you?
I would say impress is a high bar for a lot of these. I'm gonna be real with you.
Look, I mean,
I would say
it's a short sample size. I know.
I would say Delaware State. The way they played against Delaware. Their win against Albany, and then yesterday, they took care of business against Bowie State. So I would say I've been impressed by them. Probably Alabama State. Alabama State. And Alabama A&M. So, yeah, I think those, as far as like super impressed by, I would say those. Everybody else has kind of left some things to be desired at the FCS level for me.
Also, while we're kind of talking a little FCS, we've seen some good starts here for not only Deshaun Jackson, but Sam Shade,
Right.
And even Mike Vick. They all got their first wins as Division-I coaches. I guess we got to throw Tremaine Jackson, a different Jackson brother. We have to throw him
And Sean Gibbs, I guess. And Sean Gibbs. That would be his first
Division-I. Yeah, first Division-I coach. So we've seen all that in the past 2 weeks.
Right.
Who has captured your attention, or as you gauge the reading response and you guys are putting stories out, which fan base or which stories are garnering the kind of attention that are kind of like, okay, I see folks are paying attention to what he's doing?
Well, I think obviously Michael Vick. I mean, he moves the needle. That first game that they had, I personally was there at Towson, at the Towson game, and it was interesting. Just the way, again, having been to Norfolk State games for years, just the way that they operated totally changed when he's come there. I mean, you can't even really come and park on the campus unless you have like a pre-ordered pass. You pretty much have to public transportation in, which can make things a little bit tougher on visiting teams. That I got a whole story where I literally got, I got a story about that one. Maybe I'll tell that one another day. I'll put that on my YouTube channel. But
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
yeah,
Tag me so I can watch it.
Uh-oh.
yeah. It
Uh-oh.
was just I'm just gonna ever say if you're going to cover Norfolk, the only way you stay if you want an adventure, go to stay in Portsmouth. That's all I'm gonna say. That's the portal to the Twilight Zone. With respect, I love the 757, but man, that was what a night. Anyway, and I left with a citation, my first citation on 58 in 10 years. So I guess the game is the game. They caught me, but anyway, Michael Vick. The fanfare. I mean, 19,000 for the first game on a Thursday night. That Jackson State. I'm sorry, that Norfolk State. That Norfolk State Virginia State game is really kind of been, other than homecoming, that's usually their largest attendance, and they had 23,000 that night. So I think Norfolk, I think for the year they'll average like maybe 15,000 the last couple years, which is half their stadium, and most of that's usually on
And that's
homecoming.
decent for FCS.
No, it is decent for FCS, but the thing about it is they've got a 30,000 seat stadium in most games, especially when you talk about MEAC play and it starts to get a chill in the air and they're not doing good. You're lucky to get 5,000 in there.
Yep.
So all of that to say, what they've done in the first two home games to be averaging over 20,000 is pretty good. I mean, I'm not saying that they're gonna, beat JSU in the attendance race or some of the other folks in the SWAC, but I mean, if they're competitive, they're just because of given the size of their stadium and the energy that Michael Vick has brought to that region, there's a good chance that they could be in the top five. So we'll see. But anyway, yeah, so Michael Vick and obviously Deshaun Jackson, Sam Shade. Seeing how these D2 coaches move up is definitely something that I keep an eye on. Just having covered all these guys, covered Chennis Berry when he was at Benedict, covered Coach Gibbs and Coach Shade and those guys at SIC Media Day. So to see them where they are now is pretty good. So, but I think the big story has been Michael Vick and those guys, Jackson State kind of seeing, how they move the needle, as they try to defend their title. Attendance there is another, it was always an interesting story early in the season, but something that got people going. And then North Carolina A&T, I will say, yeah, I'm sure they're number one right now. I don't know what Jackson got. Again, they got the
18-6 yesterday.
18.
Yeah.
So between the 18 and the 13,
13, yeah,
yeah,
they're number one.
they still haven't hit what Norfolk State had on that Thursday night. So again, that kind of lets you know the impact he's had. But also, I'd be remiss if I didn't say North Carolina A&T has moved the needle. Of course, they're gonna say they moved the needle. I hate to tell them that. Um, you know, um, One day it's why are you picking on us writing all these stories when we're bad, and then it's like, oh yeah, you need us, But they're Aggies. I'm used to that at this point. But I go to Sean Gibbs' press conference every week, like I went when they had Coach Brown, and I expect tomorrow to be pretty spirited, much better than last week when we got that medical report. I felt we were like on ER the first 48. So but yeah, they're excited, and you see why folks made the move to just if you saw the clip that our guy Josh put up, you see why people were excited about him coming there. He brings an intensity and an edge that crowd, as much as they like to be pinky in the air, they like that type of stuff. So and
What was
so
that?
it's a
What
good thing.
was that? I saw that. I commented that the chicken looked spicy after. But I mean that was very odd to hear a coach. Who was he directing those comments towards? The Hampton bench or the
Well,
crowd?
from what I understand, and this again, I was 45 minutes down the road at Winston. But our guy Joshua, who he got the great highlight package up on YouTube. It's 13 minutes long. Go watch it all. But what I was told from folks was that after the game, there was a decision made not to shake hands, and which being down on the field after the game, sometimes when the game is super chippy, that does happen. It literally happened at the Lincoln WSSU game that I was at last night, where it was like, hey, it just kind of the way the game went. Sometimes they just decide, hey, you walk your way and I walk my way. So I don't know the particulars, but I do know that from what I understand, there was a decision made not to shake hands, and yeah. So
But when did they make
again,
that decision?
I'll ask tomorrow for sure at the
Yeah,
press
I mean, did
conference.
they make that decision in the moment or before the game, or it's like,
I think again, being getting a chance to be down on the sidelines, you see a lot of things, and you just kind of feel the energy of a game. And I think it's just a thing where it's like, you know what, we're not even going to bother, because this could get crazy. It doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes it does. Sometimes it's a matter of trying to. Sometimes it's a matter of trying to keep things from happening. I mean, I was on the field at North Carolina Central and Howard last year, and then I was on the field and then a day later, I was on the field at Virginia State and Virginia Union in the CIAA championship game. So
I got you.
happens. I guess.
Steve,
Yeah.
Steve, question.
What's up?
And you're probably thus far one of the few people who've, or at least who I have talked to, who've actually done both. You've covered Vic since he's been at Norfolk, actually in person, not just from afar like I
Right.
have. And you actually covered Prime when he was at Jackson State. Uh, just kind of compare and contrast the two in their infancy. Going back to year one with the two, where Vic is now compared to where Prime was then, and the hype around Norfolk versus we know Jackson State is a different type of hype. So just kind of compare and contrast the two for me.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely very much different. I mean, if you just look at the personalities of the two men and their stories, obviously Dion, we've known what he's been him since he was at Florida State, and like literally that's the first era of football that I realized. So we all know what Coach Prime, what Deion Sanders brought on the field. And so, you were going to get a show on the field. And I was there in that first press conference when they beat Edward Waters, and the thing about somebody stole his wallet, and national attention was drawn onto that situation, positive or negative. It was there. And so I think Michael Vick, given, you know, who he's always been, is kind of, especially post Atlanta Michael Vick, mature Michael Vick, with everything he's gone through, he's had to go through it. He's just had to walk a really, I don't want to say walk a fine line, but he's had to walk a fine line to rebuild his image and who he is. So he's just very laid back, appears very laid back, very calculated, and that, I think that vibe resonates for sure. Also, again, like you say, Jackson State, obviously they have just a past and a brand and a fan base that is rabid, with all due respect. So, it's an intensity that's there. And I think that Deion Sanders felt that he fed off that. And it was really a perfect match in a lot of ways until it wasn't. But I think just even when we look back on that, it was a perfect match. So Norfolk is a bit different. It's a little bit different. It's a basketball area, even though they got a lot of football players. The fans kind of the fans sit on their hands a lot more than they do down in Jackson State. You're not gonna see a lot of folks out there waving. You know what I mean? It's just a different vibe too. So, I think it's kind of been as I would expect for both of them. But I mean, I think both of them get attention in their own way. But Deion Sanders just is a magnet. He's a magnet for attention. He's a walking, talking promotion. And no matter what the world is going to see, I mean, even with what he's gone through with the cancer recently, he put that on display for the world to see. And Michael Vick, he's a little bit more close to the vest and things like that. I will say, being at the first game, I did notice that, obviously Coach Prime had been a coach before, and, he he knew all the head coach things to do. I think Michael Vick in game one for sure. I think he was still feeling his way through that. Again, they had first take on the campus early in the day, and then they don't play until night. So there was a lot. I think it was a lot. I think he said he had some jitters, but I think he'll grow into it and figure out his style. So yeah, that's kind of the difference I would say so far. And he
All
doesn't
right.
have a Shador.
Well, that part, that's a
That's
big
the
part.
biggest one.
That's the biggest part. Yeah, you don't have
So
a
he's trying to
MVP.
he's got to recruit his Shador,
Yeah.
and NIL his Shador. So, it's all I'm gonna say is we're in a different era of college football, even for HBCUs now, where people are getting money, and investments are made in players. So, there's a lot. It's interesting.
The best NIL Shadur had was in his own house.
Right.
Yeah. Uh, Steve, you did the Winston game yesterday. You went to the Winston game, and you've been high on Winston, even dating back to media days back in July. You were telling people don't sleep on Winston. So, with 3 games under the belt now, you've got a little bit of data. Why should we buy Winston at this point?
All right. Well, first, I'm gonna say, was I high on them? High is a little bit. I think that's a little. I don't know if that's completely accurate. What
Okay.
I said, what I said was it was championship or bust, and Coach Massey repeated that, and I believe that mostly because last year they had a 7-3 record. They lost to Johnson C. Smith and Virginia Union, the top two teams in the CIAA, and they had a close loss to those guys over in Greensboro. So 7-3 was good, but WSSU, like Tuskegee, used to winning. Haven't gotten to the CIAA championship game since 2016. Coach Massey's been there first as the interim and then as the head coach for a number of years. And so I said it's championship or bust, where if you don't win a championship, it's time to go in a different, it's time to make moves. So, and lo and behold, first press conference, Coach Massey says championship or bust. So, and what I saw last night, now that first game against Tuskegee, it brought back the feeling of okay, if it gave me the vibes that I got against Johnson C. Smith last year when the offense was just stagnant. They were too conservative, and I felt like they probably that the talent gap wasn't as big so much as they kind of coached themselves out of it. Um, but and then they had to come back win against Mars Hill last week. A lot of people didn't pay attention because it wasn't an HBCU thing. But on the road, at a PWI, I'm not gonna say it was a super hostile environment, but they didn't invite our band. You know what I
They
mean?
are one of the top teams traditionally in the SAC also.
Yeah, so they had to again had some of the same things that bothered me last year and bothered me against Tuskegee, the inability to sustain drives, needing to have the defense set them up on the offense up on with good field position and failing to make those drives. But in the second half against Mars Hill, they came through and did that a couple times, including the game winner. So I think everybody got the confidence. And then last night they took on Lincoln, and Lincoln is a perennial bottom feeder of the CIAA. No disrespect, but they generally are. Virginia State, Virginia Union, Bowie State. Every year at the end of the year, they go to Lincoln and they pad their stats. Well, WSSU offensively, again, Coach Massey is a defensive guy, former defensive back in the NFL, really great defensive back. He's a defensive guy, and sometimes there has been a lot of conservatism on offense. We feel like we live in a red state. We know we're the Rams, so there's a lot of conservatism on offense. But I think he talked all year about how Dalen Lee was one of the best quarterbacks coming back in Black college football. After that Tuskegee game, we weren't sure if he was going to kind of rein back in on that. But last night they put up 51. Dalen Lee was, I think, he was 15 for 17, 251 yards, 4 touchdowns in the air and 1 on the ground. He looked like the preseason all CIAA. So so it was a good win. It's what you're supposed to do. If you want to be a championship team, you have to beat a team like a Lincoln in that manner. So I think, they got Virginia State coming this weekend in another one of those CIAA games that is going to count for the Rams, but not for Virginia State.
Wait a minute. I thought they had fixed all that stuff
really?
this year,
Mm-mm.
where all the schedules were
Goodness.
equal.
Mm-mm.
That's ridiculous.
So again, because you guys know they make the schedules. They make the schedules conference wise
Years in advance.
They decided to go to 8 games in the conference. I think 2022 was the first year because before that they did 7.
Right.
So St. Aug was there. Then St. Aug drops out, and so everybody in the South plays St. Aug traditionally. But then when they leave, that makes a hole on their schedule. And so, to compensate, people are playing up, you're playing your other games, but not everybody in the old North played St. Aug. So anyway, so basically only your last 7 CIAA games count. So yesterday didn't count for Winston-Salem State in the CIAA, so if that didn't count for Winston-Salem State, but this week will count for WSSU. It'll count for Johnson C. Smith. So if Johnson C. Smith beats Virginia Union, it will count for Johnson C. Smith a win. It will not count as a loss. So, yeah. So, but their Lincoln game will count. Their Bluefield State game will count. So, it's the unfortunate byproduct of where they are for the teams in the South that are really good and competitive. So anyway, Winston hosts Virginia State next week, and then go up to Bowie, and then they host Virginia Union. So, they finished 2 out of 3 last games last year on the road for those. So we'll see how they do this year. But that's usually the Legion of Doom in the CIAA. If they can get past those, if they go 3-0 from that, then it's just don't you're still not out of
Don't
the
crap
water
on yourself.
because you still got don't pull a Johnson C. Smith, right?
Yes, there you go.
Don't
Well
pull
said.
a Smith. So
Yeah.
we'll see. But I think last night was encouraging, and I think the top, it's going to be really interesting with Union falling last night. I mean, even Elizabeth City State, again, who almost beat Hampton, took Johnson C. Smith to the brink. It was a 21-17 game, and that's a long trip. So a lot of those games that Smith got last year, the Union and State that they had at home, they got to go on the road this year. That flips. So it's going to be interesting.
Let me ask this before we close out with you. Obviously, last year the CIAA ran roughshod over the SIAC. Was it unbeaten 6-0?
Yes.
Was it last year?
6-0.
This year, much more competitive. It came down to a big game last night. Edward Waters versus Virginia Union. I call it a program-defining moment for Edward Waters. They get a close win, but the series 4-3 in favor of the SIAC. What's your angle, your viewpoint on that series? And I love it, by the way. I think it's great to kind of talk about. I'm glad we and your show and other shows are talking about it, because I think more interconference conversation and games helps draw attention to the sport. But what's your take on whether it be that game in particular or just the 7-game matchup between the two conferences?
Yeah, I think, you got to look at Virginia Union. And again, I talked to Dr. Parker back in July, and he talked about the folks that they lost. And obviously, mostly in the transfer portal, obviously we knew Jada Byers was not coming back. Thank the Lord for most CIAA teams, so, but, there you got Curtis Allen, but so they replaced him, but there were a lot of other guys. That's a lot of guys. That's a lot of key pieces to replace. And I think the thing over the last couple years that has made Virginia Union turn into the program it's been is because they were able to hold on and develop a lot of their guys, even in this transfer portal era. But this year, a lot of that's gone. So a lot of these guys are guys who have maybe been on the team, but now they got to step up in a whole new role. And so, they were able to make easy work of Miles. But we know they're in a rebuild job as well. They just didn't keep the same coach. So, they went down to Florida, took that L, and so they've got to, they've got some things. Again, there's no time for them to rest because they got Johnson C. Smith coming this week. And they'll be in Bowman Gray in a couple of weeks. But I think, they're still going to be a really good team. But I think again, I think it shows the evenness of. I think it shows where the conferences are right now. I think it's close. It's been closer than last year for sure. I think we'll know at the end of the season, kind of really be able to take stock about it and see how much who's where at the end of the season. But SIC, Drew got his bread buttered and all that. He got his SIC butter going and all of that stuff. Yeah, I made that just for him. So yeah, it started off with us. We let the whole Ram conference down by losing to Tuskegee, a game that we should not. They should have had. They should have not gone into halftime with less than 21 points. All those drops. But anyway. So we'll see at the end of the season. Hopefully, despite what we saw yesterday out of Tuskegee playing against FCS ranked team, hopefully they'll do well, and for the Rams, it won't be as painful of a loss as it was, but I think it's still gonna hurt. It was right there. Those drops, a couple here and there, but we'll see. So I think I think both leagues are deep, and I think they are better now for not having the divisions. I think again,
Agree.
you have Elwood Waters coming up and rising. You know, pun intended, I guess. You have Albany State, under Quinn Gray, and you got Clark Atlanta. I really enjoyed that Clark Atlanta Fort Valley State game on Thursday night, man. That was a good one. The MEAC and SWAC are gonna have a tough bar to keep up with, the entertainment that was that. So I think both leagues are really in a good place. I think both of them have an HBCU go. I think that helps both of them. I think they are definitely, to me, for the CIAA and SIC, they get as much publicity as most FCS schools could hope for. To be honest with you, just with the national, the national part of the HBCU Go platform and the money that has that's kind of come with that. So, and they did push for and get week 0. Week 0.
Stop it. Stop it.
Hey, Steve, too bad we can't have a D2 version of the Celebration Bowl played in some neutral site city. Because I would love to have that after this competitive 4-3 year this year.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would. I think in time, it could work, but it's gonna take. I think it's gonna take a building up of it. We haven't had that ESPN machine, by John Grant and those guys behind the CIAA and the SIC, being rivals. Because for a while I was like, man, the MEAC and the SWAC, what are they rivals for? They don't even know each other. Like a rival is somebody downtown and like, yeah, we see you, you know what I mean? But I have come to see the but I think that builds into the narrative of it and the excitement of it as well. So we'll see. I think it'd be interesting.
Steve, you just put out a show on Hampton and A&T being forced to be rivals. So I think it could happen, man.
The conference foes. Though.
One's a private school. One thinks they're a private school.
Appreciate you. What you got? What you gonna be dropping this week, Steve? Anything we should be looking out for on game day?
Teddy Keaton
video or written.
Teddy Keaton show will be on tomorrow at 7. So again, after that game, you definitely want to hear what Teddy Keaton's got to say. Me and Chris will be on the D2 show, and then you'll also get the reports. Like I'm going to North Carolina A&T. Yes, I do go over there in person. I do show my face. So for everything that I say, I do show my face. But it's I'll have a report from them, and we'll definitely see what we can get on the Aggie Eagle, Love Fest, as I call it. They like to act like they like each other. They're business partners. They just, A&T won't be a business partner with WSSU, but they'll be a business partner with Central. So, they love each other. It's a love fest, especially now with Coach Gibbs, and especially now Coach Gibbs being an
Oh,
Eagle, and
big talkers, those two are. Yeah.
but hey, they're gonna talk. They're gonna make it a show. Who knows? Winston plays at 1. I may just go ahead and go over to see Aggie Eagle because they play at 6. Why not?
Gotcha.
Well, hopefully they serve some good chicken tomorrow at that presser that you go to at North Carolina.
They stopped. They hadn't served chicken this year. They're serving fruit cups.
With that said,
at least you got something at the press
I guess the
conference.
chicken got a little expensive. I don't know, but I take what I can get. The lemonade's good.
Stephen J. Gaither, HBCUGameDay.com. Make sure to check out the content, the written word, but also make sure to follow on YouTube and make sure to check out the shows as they are popping up.
And
over the course of
download
the
the
week.
app, please. Thank you.
Oh, yes, definitely. Download the app, a nice app, good content that you can always access as well. HBCUGameDay.com. Appreciate the time tonight, Steve, for jumping in and joining us. On the other side, Keisha Kelly will be joining us, Black College Experience. She was in Nashville for the Alabama A&M Tennessee State contest. So the attendance numbers are rising. What does that mean for Tennessee State? Interesting. Let's find out. We'll talk to Keisha on the other side. You're watching the BCSN SportsWrap right here on the Black College Sports Network. Be back in a moment.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Planning an event? From weddings to corporate functions, CMJ Events LLC brings over 15 years of experience to make your vision a reality. Based in Metro Atlanta and serving statewide, even internationally, we provide versatile event planning and authentic catering cuisines tailored to your needs. Whether it's pre-game meals for student athletes, fundraisers, weddings, corporate functions, CMJ Events LLC is your one-stop solution for exceptional service and unforgettable food. Our diverse culinary heritage means we cater to all cultural taste, dietary needs, and food restrictions, making every meal uniquely yours. Let's make your next event unforgettable. Visit us on all social media at CMJ Events LLC or email us at cmjeventsllc@gmail.com. Also give us a call at 404-664-3882 so that we can start planning now.
College football fans, a champion will rise in Atlanta on December 13th. MEAC champion, SWAC champion, the 10th Cricket Celebration Bowl, crowning an HBCU national champion. For event and ticket information, visit thecelebrationbowl.com.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties. Through its programs, Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and parenting education coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement, a statement, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. HBCU Image, a Kenny T's company.
ESPN Events presents Red Lobster Band of the Year. Returning to Atlanta on December 12th, 4 bands will qualify for the big stage, where 2 national champions will be crowned. Follow us for rankings updates throughout the season, and join us on December 12th. For event and ticket information, visit Band of...
All right, welcome back to the BCSN SportsWrap. Brian, Drew, and I believe she's there. Maybe she is on the road. Keisha J. Kelly, Black College Experience. Keisha, are you there?
Hi.
Hey. How you doing tonight, Keisha?
I'm tired. I can't lie. I'm very tired.
It's all good. Hey, appreciate you taking some time out, taking a few minutes out. I know you're just getting off the road probably, or at least trying to do look, some of us, I came in this afternoon. I didn't even unpack. I just got clothes still. I still got to do all of that. I got to take the rental car back. I understand the pain. I understand the struggle.
Listen, I took pajama pants out. I was like, yep, let me take the pajama pants out. Still got on the shirt, but I'm just like, I got media bag here, bag there, shoe. You know how women are, shoes everywhere. So I'm just like, whatever.
See, when you have to fly to your game, you don't have those luxuries of taking 5 pair of shoes, Keisha.
That's not true, because when I fly, I still overpack, Drew. Absolutely.
Yeah, but I'm not trying to sit there and wait 30, 40 minutes for my luggage. I got my backpack, which has all my personal media gear, and I've got my little, what is it, 24 by whatever carry-on. That's it. If Drew can't fit it in there, Drew ain't taking it.
Oh yeah, we women gotta have options, Drew. We gotta have options.
Yeah, my options is what color underwear I'm putting on
absolutely.
under these jeans.
It might be like a 2 or 3 time change in a day.
Thank God for y'all, Keisha. Well, in Nashville, you went to Nashville. You went to the I don't even know what. And forgive me, I don't know if this contest between Alabama A&M and Tennessee State has been dubbed. I'm sure it has been dubbed something, as it's a 4-year partnership.
Legacy. I think it's a legacy.
It's the Legacy Series.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The Legacy Series. And one of the things that outside of what appears to be a good game, Alabama A&M won 23-21, the attendance. I had to go check the attendance numbers because I was already happy to see that for the home opener, Tennessee State drew 8,000 people, which is more than probably what they averaged at Nissan all of last year and maybe even the year before. But this game had 10,000 people. So before we even get into talking a little bit about the game, what's the vibe that you're getting of that? I mean, was there a good contingent of Alabama A&M fans, or did you get a sense that, hey, Tennessee State fans are starting to warm up to attending home games now under Coach Reggie Barlow?
I think it's because based on who they play, because of course we know it was John Merritt Classic before. So now it's just a change of the name. So I believe it was a mix, because keep in mind, Huntsville is just like an hour, 45 minutes or so from Nashville. So it's an easy shot to just drive straight to Nashville for that game, which was really easy. And they had things that they were doing for the weekend. So you did have a mix. There were, of course, because it's Nashville, there were a lot of Tennessee State fans there, but there was an equal balance, I would say, for Alabama A&M. But I do think it's more Tennessee State fans, which is good to see, like you said, of them getting out, because we know this has not been the case in the past 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they definitely haven't been. And so as you got a chance to see Sam Shade and the Bulldogs play, I'm starting to become very impressed. I was not surprised. I'm one of the people who I said that my dark horse team was Alabama A&M because I saw what Shade did last year. I know he has a lot of Miles guys that came over with him, and we saw that same formula work for Chennis Berry when he went from Benedict to South Carolina State. As you watched this team, and what's your thoughts and take on Alabama A&M? Are we getting close to being able to think of them as a contender in the East, or do we just need to kind of let them play a couple of SWAC games before we can really say that?
Well, you picked Alabama A&M as your dark horse. I picked Alabama State. That's my Alabama State is mine. I always go to Alabama State. I said that for basketball, and we see where that landed. But I do believe, and right now Alabama A&M is 2. They're second in the East. So, I think, like I tweeted earlier or last night, I believe that Sam Shade was the right choice for Alabama A&M. It's been a long time coming for them. I've watched I've watched so many coaches at Alabama A&M, but I really do believe being able to see, it's just like he was saying, just doing post game, listening to him talk. And he was just saying, the one thing about this team is that they're resilient. And it came down to that one play, and when Tennessee State fumbled, that was the whole turnaround of the game. So, I think that, I think this could be, but it does come down to, we got to watch a couple more SWAC games. It's going to come down to that.
Okay. Cornelius Brown, quarterback, Alabama A&M, 21 of 33, 329 yards though. So 2 touchdowns, no INTs. I can't say he did a whole lot of running this particular game, but
he did.
Statistically, passing wise is what he seems to have become the kind of quarterback that, on the heels of what he did last week, is really starting to turn some heads in the SWAC. What's your take on what you've seen from him?
Well, it's funny you said it, because even when I was doing the post game wrap up, I was talking about that. Just looking at his passing yards, and that was a lot. And it's just like you said, he didn't do a lot of running, but the passing yardage is what seems to be doing it for him. And even in that moment, I was still thinking that Tennessee State will pull it off. I was still thinking that they will pull it off. But, once I looked at the numbers for him, it was, it's going to be some stuff. But I'm going to tell you a game that's going to be interesting to see is, and it's on down the stretch, but once we get to Magic City Classic, him against Andrew Body is what I'm going to be interested to see. That's going to be interesting.
All right, Keisha, I'm looking at this game, and we've got we wound up with a 1-score game, 2 points to be exact.
Correct.
And when you look at it, Tennessee State, 2 turnovers.
Correct.
What was it about Alabama A&M that allowed them to turn Tennessee State over? Because in a game that close, a 1-possession game, less than a field goal, those 2 turnovers are probably the difference in the ball game, Keisha. So what was it that you were able to see that made Alabama A&M be able to turn Tennessee State over like that?
So again, they were resilient. They did. They stuck to it. They stayed in that game the whole time, and defense did their job. It was just the whole time of getting through this actual game to make sure they put it away. Because like you said, it's a close game, and you're down 2 points, At one point, Tennessee State, once they took the lead, because Alabama A&M scored first, it was 3-0 for a while. And then after that, it goes on to where Alabama A&M scores again. Tennessee State finally gets on the board, and I think they make it maybe 10-6. It was 10-7. And so after that, Tennessee State takes the lead. So at no point in time did Alabama A&M give up. Their defense was, they stayed in it. But once I'm going to say the second turnover, like I said, in that last 2 minutes or so of that game is what really determined it. When they turned the ball over, or Tennessee State turned the ball over that last, and Alabama A&M recovered. That was the game killer right there. And you saw Tennessee State fans leaving. They just got up and started walking out.
Yeah. Now, one other thing, and this is what I love about your unique approach to covering HBCU sports. You go deeper than the actual game on the field. You usually find time to get out, mingling with the people, and getting the vibe of the people as part of your coverage. So what was the vibe of the people with this legacy series? Were people are people excited about this new potential rivalry? Do we expect people talking about they're gonna make sure they come to Huntsville next year? Just kind of what was you able to pick up both from the tailgate area and the fans and everything else as you were there at the game?
Being that it was in Nissan Stadium, so being in an NFL stadium is always a plus. That was a good thing. But one of the things that they did that I really liked, they had, it's like a Greek road. So what happened was, with the, everybody has the in-game DJs. And so they had a DJ, which was an Omega. And so each fraternity, sorority got a moment to highlight their fraternity or sorority. So everybody gets to step, everybody gets to stroll outside. I won't say it was outside of the stadium. It's like on the side of the stadium, but it was actually on the big screen. So you could see what was going on. That was one thing I haven't seen anybody do that. So it was like, you get a chance to bring that in. And then on side of it, of course, you always got the battle of the bands. It's like my friend said, the whole stadium can be in chaos. We in there dying, but they in there having stand battles. They don't care about nothing that's going on that field. As long as they can start blowing them tubas and beating them drums. They don't care about nothing that's going on the football field. As long as they can play what they gonna play. But it was a really good thing. Even with the mascots, the mascots were doing their thing. So I think a lot of people will head to Huntsville again because it's right up the street. And I think it will only gain momentum. So now that Alabama A&M has taken game 1 and started talking trash to Tennessee State, now it's we got to wait for 363 days, 2 days or whatever to get back to this point so we can see what happens next.
We are very early, just the first quarter of the 2025 season, essentially. I think we're kind of hit that week 3, week 4 mark. First quarter is out the way. Who has impressed you in the FCS level? And you can even go as far as the SWAC. What 2 or 3 teams have impressed you at this early stage? And I know it's early because we haven't quite had these SWAC games, but, we got schools that have played some FBS and they played some PWI FCS and they played some Division-II. But who's impressed you so far?
Again, Alabama State as my dark horse. I'm impressed by Alabama State. And it's when Andrew Body's down, he's down, but when he's up, he's up. So I'm impressed by by Alabama State. That's my one. I'm not sleeping on Prairie View. I talked about Prairie View, interviewed Coach Jackson. I'm interested to see what's going to happen, especially during homecoming, which we do play them for homecoming. So right now, Alabama State, definitely. I haven't really had a chance to watch Jackson State, but I'm really, Alabama State is probably with Alabama and then probably coming in right after that.
Anybody in the BAC tickling your fancy?
I'm always going to go North Carolina Central. North Carolina Central is always a go-to. But then even South Carolina State, I did get to see pieces of that. I see that, well, of course, they put away Bethune-Cookman. I didn't expect that score. Bethune-Cookman put up a good fight yesterday. But, again, North Carolina Central is always that's my go-to.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, how are you feeling about Southern these days?
As far as I'm concerned, yesterday we won the game because we scored. So as long as we scored, we got it out with a check and nobody was hurt, I am totally fine. It took me a while to reset my mind from last week playing Alabama State. It took me a while I was at Clark. Clark was playing Florida Memorial. And after I left that game and I was trying to watch pieces of it, I don't know if y'all was like the score was backwards. So I was like, well, why is everybody mad? Because we're winning. And then I realized Google had the score backwards. And they were like, yeah, run the score up. And I'm like, run the score up? Y'all, we got 30. It's 30-7. And when I logged in, I logged out. I went to bed. I was mad for the rest of the night. I just went to bed. I was just so pissed off. I was just like, oh, Lord, they beat us in the trenches. It was just terrible. It was terrible. And then I got over it. It took me about 3 days, but I got over it.
All right, Keisha, I got to ask the obvious follow-up since Brian, and I'm supposed to be messing with this one, Brian and Keisha. Are Southern fans on the ledge yet?
Yeah, Southern fans stay on the ledge. They stay on the ledge. And so even with conversation, everybody has their groups, their things they talk about. And I just kind of read, just like a coach, I read it, keep going. I don't really voice my opinion on it because you have people that are passionate about stuff. Then you have people that go over the top about stuff. They feel like you can't voice your opinion because once you voice your opinion, you're not loyal, and so on and so forth. And so what's happening is you had people even mad about last night. I was like, y'all, it was a money game. Like, we weren't supposed to win the game. Y'all, it was a money game. And so you got a lot of people that, they are on the ledge, even with, the announcement of Coach McNair, the changes we were making for the week. Yeah, people still mad about that. Yeah, people mad about that. So it's like, you're just not going to win every game. You got to look at where you are. You're rebuilding. It's a lot of stuff that goes into that, but it's something that's on the ledge. Absolutely.
And I think it's a bye week coming up for Southern, correct? Because
Correct.
Talk about a tough 4. I mean, you played a third of your season, and I think preseason we kind of hinted at. Well, I know I did, maybe with Drew, that there was a possibility of what would Southern season look like if they entered that bye 1-3. I think a lot of people were thinking maybe 2-2.
Right.
And optimistically 3-1. But what would it look like if they were 1-3? And here you are looking at 1-3, and now you get the bye week. And of course, you still have the rest of the season in front of you, obviously. I mean, you've got the 8 conference games coming up. But man,
that's the good news.
That's only good news, is that you still have the 8 conference games, and so your season is not gone per se, even though, as you said, they're on the ledge.
Yeah, and that's the thing, we still do. I mean, after we come off the bye, it's a much needed bye. You got some banged up guys that they really need to rest. But then you go into, go back home to Baton Rouge, but then we host Jackson State. So, you go straight into conference game. So it's like now you starting to get warmed up, and we know how October is. October determines everything. And so you go into that, like I said, you come out the bye, Jackson State's going on a bye. And so once we come back, boom, we, it's Boombox Classic. So, they head over to Baton Rouge, where of course the jukebox and the boom are going to beat every drum and blow every horn till you can't do nothing else. So, it is, but this, it's still, so I remind them, I was like, we still got season left. We haven't played any SWAC games.
Bryan, over under on how many times the referee has to get on the mic in 2 weeks to tell the band to only play when their team has the ball, when those two teams get together.
I'm going to say it's probably at 2.5, and I would probably take the over. I'm going to take the over.
It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is, exactly.
Keisha, my darling, we thank you for coming on. Get you some rest. Somewhere in there, we all have 9 to 5, so we all understand the struggle.
I know. So thank you so kindly. Y'all be safe.
You as well. You as well. Make sure you guys check out Black College Experience at Black College. Is it Black College EXP, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Black College EXP. Make sure.
Any big interviews coming up this week, Keisha?
No, not this week. None that I can think of. They might throw some in there. They'll do a last minute on me in a minute. Y'all know how people do. They'll throw something on me in the last minute. But I guess I'll see you on Saturday, Drew.
Oh yeah, Bryan. by the way, color commentator for the Morehouse Kentucky State game. You're talking to her.
Oh, okay. There you go, Keisha. Okay,
and Kentucky State gave us some, thanks to Grambling almost losing yesterday. We got a lot of good stats.
A lot of good stuff too. I mean, hey, look, they even gave Albany State a good run for about a half, maybe a half
into the third quarter.
Into the third quarter. So yeah, that's gonna be a good contest. A lot of good stuff to talk about going into that one.
It is. Like I said, it's a lot of good stats there that I can actually look at. So, it'll be interesting to see what goes on this upcoming week for Morehouse. I guess Morehouse is looking for their first win. Kentucky State too, I guess.
No, Kentucky State has one.
Who did they?
Opening game of the season, if I'm not opening game of the season.
Lane, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was either Lane or Central State. One of those two that they to open up the season.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'll be emailing you a lot of information this week.
I'll be looking for it. Thank you so kindly.
Probably won't even use half of it, but all right. Anyway,
That's how it's supposed to be. That's how it's supposed to be. I'd rather for them to be over prepared than under prepared. Thanks, Dr.
Oh,
Cavill,
yeah,
for throwing
Dr.
that out.
Cavill said Central State.
It was
Wait,
Central
before
State.
I
I
go,
just wanted
so Brian, you have on this Colts shirt. Look at me over here with the losing Saints shirt on. I guess Drew ain't in the contest with nothing on.
well, your Saints played well today, though. They did play well.
Almost doesn't count though, Brian. Almost doesn't count.
Exactly. Only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades is what I like to say. Close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. All right. Keisha, appreciate you. You be well.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. Appreciate Keisha for jumping in and joining us. And while we're in that mode and we're repping our NFL gear, let's transition to another young lady. She's flying high after her Eagles just picked up a big win. Broke my heart because I needed one Harrison Butker field goal and they stole it from me. Dog it. The interception late in the red zone. Doggone Eagles stole a field goal that would have hit a 4-teamer for me. But let's bring in none other than Simone Stanley. Simone, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm amazing. Coming off a win. Losing my voice between the Eagles game last week at the little boys, and then my birthday, and then calling that game, and then another Eagles game in a span of a week. My voice said, "I'm done with you."
Well, Simone, Brian, this is the other part of my broadcast team for our Morehouse Kentucky State game next week. But since her voice is so tired, and since she's an Eagle fan and her Eagles just beat my Chiefs, I may give her the week off now. No, I'm just joking, Simone.
Hey, get that hot tea with lemon. Start on it now, and you'll be good in about a couple of days. Some hot tea and some lemon and some honey. And you'll be good. You'll be good in a couple days.
Yes.
Well, hey, you had the big game of the week. Edward Waters hosting Virginia Union in the inaugural Unity Classic, big time CIAA versus SIAC matchup. Did you get a sense? I mean, we kind of hyped it and talked about it, but did you pregame? Did the atmosphere and everything in terms of talking to coaches and players, did you get a sense that as important as a game as it turned out to be, that it was built to be what it turned out to be?
Oh, absolutely. There was a lot of buzz and hype coming into the game. First time matchup between Edward Waters and Virginia Union. So it was already, great intrigue when we get those different conferences going against each other. Obviously, Virginia Union, back-to-back CIAA champs, they're always going to get a lot of eyes. But once Edward Waters started the season as hot as they did, then it's like so much more attention, so much more gravitas that was brought to that game. So you had two undefeated teams with high-power offenses going at it. And then, of course, everybody knows Virginia Union right now. They have tons of respect for that football program and Coach Parker. But you have a kind of unknown, kind of new kids and Edward Waters looking for, some respect to their football team. New coach, a lot of questions with the interim coach stepping up just 2 months ago. But to have that game, I don't know if a game ever lived up to a hype as much as that game did yesterday. It was just awesome because there was so much camaraderie around Coach Parker and Coach Jenkins. The president at Virginia Union and the president at Edward Waters are really good friends, and they wanted to bring this classic together. But you saw the love through all the media and through all the press conferences with Coach Parker and Coach Bryan Jenkins. You saw the love and respect they had for each other. So it was just a great matchup. Couldn't have scripted a better game after all the buzz that went into it.
And Simone using those SAT words, talking about gravitas and everything like that. But Simone, if you could just talk about it, and here's another SAT word, the ambiance there, as far as the fans and the the tailgating and everything else that was going on there surrounded the game off of the field. Because Bryan and I have both been to games at Edward Waters, at Jacksonville. We were there when they did not have an on-campus stadium,
Yeah.
and we've been there since they have had an on-campus stadium. So just kind of talk about the just the atmosphere there around the game.
Yeah, the atmosphere was great. Both sides full. The Virginia Union fans filled up their section. The Edward Waters section was full. Edward Waters had their band. Obviously, Virginia Union didn't have their band, but they had their cheer squad out there. They had the mascot out there, and a section full of fans. So the energy was intense throughout the whole game. Obviously, the fans were quiet for a lot of the game because of how intense it was. Like, fans literally on the edge of their seat for most of the game because of how intense it was. But no, the energy was great. It was a lot of interaction between, the players and even the sideline. Like, we were right behind the Virginia Union stands, and when they needed big stops, the Virginia Union players are turning around to the crowd and are like, "Get loud, get loud, get loud." The triple threat band, they were playing while Virginia Union was on offense, so they had to call the flag there. It was a lot of intensity in the stands, but the fans, they had a great time.
Yeah, you and I noticed you broadcasted that one in the box, as I like to call it. I mean, now I've had the pleasure of being in 3 different areas to call games. One being in that spot where you were. One time I had to do it outside of that door, and it happened to be raining that day, which was no fun. And then up above you. So did you have a say in being in the box where you were, or did you kind of have to measure out? I don't know how many other times you've been to Edward Waters Stadium there.
Yeah, so last time I was there, I was doing sideline. No, so I just got blessed. I think the team, Jamie and Tanitra, who called the game a week before, I guess the staff felt bad for them having to be outside. Because when we came in, they already had it set up inside, and one of the staff members was like, "Oh, y'all can thank me this week" or something. So it must have been a little uproar with Jamie and Tanitra having to be outside because we didn't have to say anything. They just had us already set up. So somebody has to crawl for the next person to walk.
Now I understand why Jamie was a little bent in his tweet. Now I understand.
Right.
He was noticing he was a little bent. He was definitely a little bent. Oh my goodness. I understand that. This game, 41-38, Edward Waters pulls out the victory. They had as much as a 31-17 lead after kicking a 27-yard field goal with 11:20 in the fourth quarter. But we all know Virginia Union is never out of it. Put 2 back-to-back scores together on presumably, off of a 9-play drive. Then you had a scoop and score. And right then, Edward Waters, right there at that point, you had a tie ball game, 31-31. Talk a little bit about the momentum change and that ensuing drive by Edward Waters after that score got tied up at 31.
Yeah, so, I mean, you could feel the energy change when Edward Waters went up big. Looked like they have full control of the game. But again, like you said, we know Virginia Union. This is a team that won the CIAA in back-to-back years. Coach Parker has been in every situation, and that team always feels like they can win at any game. So I feel like Edward Waters understood the situation, that this game isn't over, literally, until it's over. But I feel like the vibe kind of never really changed in the stadium. Obviously, the Edward Waters fans were, getting a little bit more loose because, like I said, the game was back and forth in the first half. So the fans were tense, they were tense. But yeah, the Edward Waters fans, they started getting up dancing once they went up double digits. They were up dancing way more loose. Like I said, the band started playing way more often. But yeah, once Virginia Union got it back down to one score, it was like zoop.
Got quiet. Yeah, they got
But yeah, the Virginia Union fans were packed out on their side, so it was always some energy from at least one side of the stands, because the Virginia Union fans, they travel.
Edward Waters answered the 51-yard scoop and score with a 90-yard kickoff return. I know that had to send the place bananas on that. And then all Virginia Union did was come back and go on a 9-play, 66-yard drive to tie the game up again at 38. And at that point, Simone, you have hit that point in a game, and I've only experienced this maybe once in broadcasting, where you got to be thinking, oh, I've hit the game of the year mode. Like our game just went from being a good game to game of the year. In the moment, as you're calling it, are you thinking that, or are you just like, yo, I'm just trying to stay in the moment with this game? Yeah,
so for me, this was my first game doing football. I thought I was going to, start off with a high school game, which I was trying to do. So I'm like, even leading up to the game, Brian, I'm seeing Vaughn Wilson putting out all this media attention towards this game. I'm like, now how did I end up with the game everybody about to be watching, and this my first game? Because everybody say you don't want nobody, you want to work while nobody watching. You know what I'm saying? That's why I wanted some high school games out here in Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, how in the world did I end up with the HBCU game of the week on my first day outside? So at that point, I was trying not to think about it, because I'm like, everybody is watching this game at this point. So yeah, I was trying to like push it out my mind. The amount of people that were probably tuning into that game.
Well, you will have some fun clips. Edward Waters with the score tied up at 38 would go 5 plays, 34 yards, kick a 35-yard game-winning field goal, a walk-off shot. We've seen a few of those and we're only 3 weeks in. Look, I'm gonna say 3. You folks in Division-II, I get it, 2, whatever. 3 weeks into the year, and we've already had probably a handful of walk-off field goal shots or just game-winning scores on the HBCU circuit here in just the first quarter of the season. But Edward Waters wins 41-38. A program, I'm going to call it a program-defining moment. First time they've gone 3-0 in school history. They take out the number 13 team in the country. An outstanding game, and I mean, awesome experience for your first football play-by-play game. So I know you're gonna have some fun reels to cut up over the course of the week on this game. This is a series that will happen next year. I'm assuming they will return the favor, and Edward Waters will travel to Virginia Union next year. I'm assuming correctly?
So I'm not sure about that. It's definitely an ongoing classic.
Okay.
I'm not sure if they're going to flip-flop, though.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, 41-38. Simone, I know it's been a long night. It's been I appreciate you taking some time to come in and join us. Let people know where you will be this upcoming week. I know you do a lot of things with HBCU Game Day, but you're all over the place and doing a lot of things between the stuff you do as covering the Eagles, and then the other stuff you do covering HBCU. So let people know where they can find your work and what you got going on this week.
Yeah, so you can find me obviously on HBCU Game Day, recapping games, previewing games. That should come out Thursday or Friday. This Saturday, I'm actually doing the radio broadcast for the Georgia Tech Temple game. So back on the sidelines this Saturday, but we'll be putting out some HBCU stuff on game day this week.
Good stuff. Good stuff. One of the rising stars in this sports media, not just HBCU, but sports media game, Simone Stanley. Fly, Eagles, fly. She's an Eagles fan, as you can see. She's on cloud 9. Eagles with a big win today in the matchup, Super Bowl rematch. Wasn't much of a rematch, but anyway.
Exactly.
2017.
Somebody said it.
I had to say it exactly. But anyway, hey, always appreciate your time, Simone. Good seeing you. Take care of yourself. Be well, and I'll see you down the road.
See ya.
All right. Simone Stanley, guys. Good stuff. Well, I don't know if Drew, I just want to take a second because Drew may have had to jump off and handle some phone calls. The BCSN Pick 5 contest, myself and several other folks who are running our Pick 5 contest. This might be the first time that everybody who put in an entry in week 3 went 5-0. Everybody went 5-0. Everybody's top, best bet hit. So there's no real movement in the standings for this past week. So congratulations to everybody. Let me show the games that are upcoming for this upcoming week. And so of all the games, and this is one interesting week because you got a lot of teams that are on buys. I think, a lot of the top 3 or 4 teams in a few different polls are on buys, but we got a few teams, some interesting matchups. And again, when you're in the contest, you got to pick 5 of these games. These are straight up contests, no point spreads, but you got to pick 5 and you got to pick a winner. And then you got a tiebreaker game, the last one on the board. So this week, South Carolina State travels to South Florida. What makes this game interesting is the fact that South Florida had to open the season playing 3 very good ranked teams. Boise State got a victory. Florida got a victory. Went to Miami last week and kind of either they ran out of gas or Miami is just really good. I was very shocked that Miami blew out South Florida. Now South Florida comes back home. They play South Carolina State. Chinnisberry and his guys will not be scared because just 2 weeks ago, they played South Carolina or the University of South Carolina, another FBS, played them very well. So this might be an interesting game. I don't think it'll be an upset, but I just think this will be an interesting game. The matchup that I think people will really have their eyes focused on is Edward Waters and Brian Jenkins returning to Bethune-Cookman. I should say Brian Jenkins returning to Bethune-Cookman, where, he was an HBCU national champion, a multi-year MEAC champion. He really built Bethune into a powerhouse back in the early 2010s. And now he gets a chance to go back to a place. And so watch the storylines that come out this week and the stories that'll come out regarding this contest. And I'm just going to say it. Bethune-Cookman better play their best game because Edward Waters is playing really well right now. Norfolk State hosting Sacred Heart. Sacred Heart is the program, I believe, that is taking their entire athletics program down to Division-III. So this is an opportunity for Norfolk State to get a win. And then you have the battle for the HU. This has really been, Hampton has owned this series with the exception of a 4-year stretch. Hampton has won every game this century. I'm talking 21 of the last 25 games Hampton has won. And again, outside of a 4-year run by Howard, Hampton has owned this. I mean, they own the H, and I'm talking big H. They own it. But, Hampton lost in overtime to North Carolina A&T. They fared fairly well against, they had a tie ball game going into the fourth quarter against Jackson State to open the season. They got a win against Elizabeth City State. I'm telling you now, I'm not going against Hampton, and if I lose, I just lose. But Hampton has owned this. That's what I'm saying. The interesting matchup is the Aggie-Eagle Classic, or is it the Eagle-Aggie Classic? The way that's been going lately, it's been the Eagle-Aggie Classic. North Carolina A&T got their first win against an FCS opponent in 371 days when they beat Hampton on Saturday in overtime. And now I think this contest is actually worth talking about because Coach Gibbs I don't know which. I heard a report that A&T is like on their 7th string quarterback. I don't know. That's what Dave said. I don't know. Maybe he was joking, but I know they're without a couple of starters at the quarterback position, but they will find a way, and that's what the Aggies have done. And so Central picked up I believe Central picked up a win, so they've improved to 2-2 after a pair of tough losses. And so this will be interesting. Be an interesting matchup this upcoming week. Grambling has not beaten an FCS opponent this year. They got a win over an NAIA and a Division-II school. Maybe stole a win from a Division-II school last week, according to some people. Now they have to play Texas A&M Commerce. Adrian Crook already has called a 39-0 victory for Texas A&M Commerce, and you might be right about that. Prairie View hosts Northwestern State. Northwestern State, this is the school that had a 20-game losing streak coming into the season, was a home underdog to Alcorn by about 10 points, and beat Alcorn State, who is 0-3 right now, who has not gotten a victory. Can Prairie View hold off Alcorn? We'll find out. And then the last game on the schedule that the Pickers are going to have to choose the tiebreaker on, Alabama A&M off the victory at Tennessee State, hosting Lane College in Huntsville. So there's the five, only 8 games, so a little smaller schedule than normal. But, the Pickers have to pick 5. So no matter how you dice it up, they got to pick a good game. The question is, are they going to have the guts to decide the Edward Waters Bethune-Cookman game, the Hampton-Howard game, the Aggie-Eagle Classic, any and all of those games? Somebody's going to have to pick one of those games, and we'll see. We'll see if we get another 5-0 run. All right. Well, I'm getting ready to close up shop for tonight. Been a loaded show. Got to thank Mo Carter, Stephen J. Gaither, Keisha Kelly, and Simone Stanley for coming in, joining us this past episode, kind of catching us up on some of the games that we were at. I think we didn't touch on every game, but I think we got to the biggest games of the past weekend, week number 3, as I like to call it, week 3 of the NCAA HBCU schedule. Of course, the D2 folks like to say it's week 2, but whatever. It is what it is according to them. So I got to think AD had to take care of some business on the other side. So I will sign out the show for him. But I appreciate all of you guys for coming in and joining us. Please hit the thumbs up and the like button wherever you are and however you're watching the show. Make sure you are following the Black College Sports Network on all of our feeds on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and, of course, on YouTube via the MyJBN Online Jericho Broadcast Network's Black College Sports Network YouTube page. We appreciate you. And you do us a solid if you do one thing. Go download the BCSN Pod Zone. That's the podcast aggregate of all of the shows that appear on the Black College Sports Network. You can find it on Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and however and wherever you're listening to that podcast. Download, rate, review, subscribe. It all helps the algorithms out, so we certainly appreciate it. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to everybody in the chat for watching. Hope you guys have a great week, and lock in. There's more great content coming during the course of the week here on the Black College Sports Network. We appreciate you for watching. And for AD Drew, I'm Brian Fulford. You've been watching the BCSN SportsWrap right here on the Black College Sports Network. Peace out. We'll holler.